Hello boys and girls, Lord Hawkeye here again. Yep, another political philosophy video before we get to the next World of Warcraft Reflections video. I'm sure many of you are so disappointed about that. Anyways. When statists are asked where does government get the authority to do the things that it does, the common answer we're always given is from the consent of the governed. The government have these powers because the people gave them the power to do these things. Well, there's a huge problem with this that everyone seems to want to avoid addressing. That is the issue of, can you grant authority that you don't have yourself? Think of this. If I own a car, I can lend it to someone else. I am granting someone else the authority to use it, because I have the authority to use the car myself since it is mine. Now, if you have a car, can I lend your car to someone else without your consent? No. Because I don't have the authority to do that, so it stands to reason that I can't give someone else the authority to do it. I'm producing authority out of thin air. And if you can do that, well then there's no property rights at all. I can say, oh, I'm not stealing your car, I'm granting myself ownership of it. And if I can do that, the other guy can do the same thing right back, so whose claim wins here? That doesn't work. And this, likewise, if I can't kill people, it's wrong for me to do that, then does it not stand to reason that I can't grant someone else the right to kill someone? Because if I can, well then the law against murder might as well not even exist. Just delegate it to someone else and boom, you're clean. So that's something to consider. When people say, government gets its powers from the consent of the governed, well, the governed don't have the right to wage war. They don't get to tax people. They don't get to declare a harmless activity illegal and then threaten people for doing it. They don't get to set whatever rules they want as to how other people run their affairs. So how could they possibly grant the government the right to do that? It doesn't make any sense. And if you can do that, well then there's no law at all. Just if something's illegal, just declare yourself having the right to do it, or declare someone else having the right to do it on your behalf, and boom, you've got a loophole to absolutely everything. Which brings me to our next point. I'm often accused of wanting lawlessness, or people saying, oh, if we had less government, or if we didn't have a government, there'd be total lawlessness, and that would be bad. Really? Think about what I just said there. How if we accept the premise that you can grant authority you don't have, then that is lawlessness, essentially. And also consider this. Say you were playing a game and there's a rule book that is written in code. You can't read it. If you ask people what the rules are, they won't tell you, or they make it so complicated you can't possibly understand. And even if you did know the rules, it's impossible to comply with them. They ask you to do things that are impossible. They ask you to do things that are contradictory. If this was all the case, does this game really have any rules, if you think about it? If you can't comply with them, you can't read them, and you can't understand them, then there are no rules. And have you looked at the law books lately? They are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages long, and they're written in this completely misleading language that just is so open to interpretation and is so full of symbolism and all this other stuff. I mean, it's easier to make sense of the Bible than it is to make sense of a lot of laws. And a lot of laws contradict each other or make demands that you could not possibly comply with. So think about it. The law, you can't read it, you can't understand it, and you can't comply with it. So do you really have any laws in the first place? No. Laws should be something that you could explain to a child and they could comply with. If you can't do that, then there's something wrong here. Because what's the point of having laws if no one can comply with them? As I've pointed out before, there is not a single person in the entire world who is not in violation of some law on the books. And you tell me, would you consider that a good thing? I certainly don't. And it makes me wonder, what's the point of even having them? So that brings us to the next point. People who support the state, I really question whether or not they actually oppose lawlessness, because they certainly have no problem with the government murdering, killing, and enslaving on their behalf. They want to be able to steal. They want to be able to kill people they don't like. They want to be able to force people to do as they say. But they want the government to do it for them, because if they did it themselves, then they'd have to bear some risks in doing so. Which brings us to this question. Another thing people often ask me is, well, if we didn't have a government, what's to stop people from initiating force to get their way? The answer to that is very easy. The simple fact that, without a government, you would have to bear the risks of doing this yourself. What do I mean by that? If you can have a government wage a war and mass kill people and be praised for it, well, boom, you just got people you don't like killed, and your hands are completely clean. Nobody's going to go after you about that. If you go kill someone yourself, or you have someone do it on your behalf, that can get traced back to you, and there might be retaliation. Likewise, right now, if you're a big company and some new and upcoming company comes up and is starting to steal your business, what do? Lobby the government, get the regulations changed in a way that you can comply with it, but he can't, and boom, shut down his business, and you're completely in the clear. Nobody can do anything against you. And yet, let's say there is no government to lobby. Let's say that option was closed off. What would you do then? Burn his factory down? Well, you could, but there's a million things that could go wrong with that. What if the arsonist just takes your money and splits and doesn't do the job? What are you going to do? Go to the courts? I don't think they're going to be very sympathetic to you. What if he tape records your conversations and blackmails you? What if he was actually hired by your competitor to get some dirt on you? What if your competitor finds out and makes him a better offer to burn your factory down? Or what if you burn his factory down and they retaliate and burn yours down? I think that'll pretty much kill anything you were hoping to gain by burning your competitor's factory down. So there you see the problem. Without a government, if you're going to initiate force or fraud, then you have to bear the risks of doing it yourself. And I think for that reason alone, a lot of people would be deterred from that. Like, what if some company starts taking bribes and doing bad things? Yeah, that's possible. It could happen. But if they do that, then they better pray that nobody finds out, because there's they got competitors who would rat them out in a second. Because hey, shut down your competitor and look like a hero. What company would pass that up? Of course they won't. Or news stations. Oh yeah, they love getting dirt on people and exposing them for that. They get to look like the good guys, and some bad company gets shut down. Double win. And I ask you, as you have right now, like people who support the NHS, I ask you, what if the NHS tomorrow decided we're gonna stop buying legitimate drugs and replace them all with homeopathic remedies in order to cut costs? If they did that tomorrow, what would you do about it? Nothing. You can't refuse to go there. They're funded through your taxes. They're going to get your money anyway. You could protest them. You could lobby, and maybe that would work. Maybe it wouldn't. But in the meantime, they're still going to get your money. And who's really going to get in trouble for that? Not many. The NHS have done a lot of bad things, and they all get away with it. And the worst thing is, the state worshippers totally support them for it. So, the conclusions. When people say governments get authority from the consent of the governed, ask them, well, where did the governed get this authority from? And you're going to get a totally blank stare. Lawlessness? I would argue that it's the king and country crowd who support lawlessness. They want to be able to kill, they want to be able to steal, they want to be able to enslave, and use the government, and you have the government do it on their behalf so they don't have to bear the costs of it. Which is why, without a government, we'd have less force and less fraud, because you'd have to bear the cost of doing it yourself, and that changes everything. So, that's my little talk for the day. Until next time, be aware and be wise.